Amaroo Park, west of Sydney, and on this 23rd day of October 1977, host to a race which is unique in the world. The Castrol 6 Hour has attracted top overseas names as well as riders from every state of the Commonwealth. Over the next 2 hours, we'll bring you live and recorded highlights of every moment of action and adventure, or for some, misadventure, and stay with us at 5 to 4 Eastern Australian time for our Cross to Seoul, a live telecast of the World Cup soccer match between Australia and South Korea. Weather conditions are overcast here, a little rain overnight, which has cooled the track and eased tyre wear problems. The crowd is a near record one, over 10,000 spectators, and of course you watching make up a vast national television audience. Rate of heartbeat of the 40 riders are building up, and at the start they'll reach 150, and then during the race an increase even further to something between 180 and 210 beats per minute. Their machines represent a wide cross-section from Japan, Kawasaki, Honda, Yamaha and Suzuki, and BMW, Ducati, Lavera and Moto Guzzi. And at the start, it's nearly 9:45, 30 seconds to go, Will Hagen.
The field of 40 dominated by Kawasaki with 18 bikes in the race and 33 Japanese. Riders down on the starting grid and nervous tension building up. The importance of this race to the riders and to the trade they're well aware of, and in 20 or 15 seconds they'll be away. $10,000 in trophies and in prizes. Action about to take over from nervousness. Everybody away, and the field being led by Jim Budd, who set fastest time in practices, followed by second fastest qualifier Brian Martin on 18. Budd riding 2. A very clean start for the 40 riders. No scratchings from the program. Here's Budd with an enormous lead. And my goodness, going down inside him, number 1 is Roger Hayes, last year's winner, sharing a bike with Budd. Noel Christensen, a fantastic pace being set by the leading riders.
Blistering, Will, and taking a shortcut too as the man in second place there, Roger Hayes on bike number 1. The two Team Avon machines leading this race so far. Down into the braking area. Look at the lead that Budd's got, but here comes a challenge from the rider in third place, moving up very fast indeed. Swinging through there now at something like 75 miles an hour through that corner, brushing right up to the Armco.
Nearly 1.8 second lead to Jim Budd on the first lap. An incredible margin over the remainder of the field. But quite a number of them not content to let him get away. There's Roger Hayes, his teammate from last year on 1. He's in second. In third place is Brian Martin. This is one of the favoured bikes, the Z1B 900 Kawasaki's, coming down to Honda Corner. What a margin. Jim Budd, absolutely flying. Sharing the ride this year with Neil Chivers. Second place Hayes. Third place on 5, Graham Crosby. A lightning fast rider. Brian Martin slipping back to fourth place now on 18. Roger Hayes. No love lost between these two, although they're riding for the same team. Team Avon tyres, but they both think they're the best. And this could turn out to be a wonderful battle between these two. But the thing that their pit crews already will be worrying about is tyre wear. And for that matter, for fuel consumption. If it turns into a scrap between these two riders in the same team, well then they just could destroy their tyres inside the 6 hours, and that would virtually destroy their chances of victory. So a great battle between riders, a great battle shaping between bikes in this Castrol 6 hour.
A lap time for Jim Budd, 59.94 seconds.
Well, there's Budd and Hayes getting into a An absolute dice at the beginning of 6 hours. Incredible action from two members of the one team. But that's the way it's shaping, and there's strong challenges coming from behind them. Graham Crosby, and then looking at other bikes, Helmut Dahner there on 4. The GS, that's the BMW from Germany. The GS 750 Suzuki of Jeff Harkin, number 20. Not quite as fast as the Z1Bs, but nevertheless a strong challenge in this very early stages of this Castrol 6R. Very fast rider with incredible bike control, Graham Crosby, presently in 3rd place. And behind them, Crosby, I think, aware of how well Helmut Dahner is going in the BM. John Warrior on number 8, the fastest qualifier in 1976. This year, a little way further down the field to be equal 4th fastest qualifier, sharing the ride with the youngest A-grade rider in Australia, 18-year-old youngster Ron Bolden, who's already ridden twice in this Castrol 6R previously. West German rider Helmut Dahner came over for the 6R last year, rode extremely well, really impressed everybody because this race, being unique, is the first time this Metzeler factory works rider who rides BMW almost exclusively, it's the first time he'd ridden a production bike and the first time he'd ever ridden a bike on a track as short and as compact, with as much written into its 1.9 kilometre length as Amaru Park has. It was delayed by air due to the hijack dramas earlier in the week, so he didn't get here until Friday. That was the first time he was able to actually get out onto the circuit. He's presently circulating at 61.5 seconds. He moved that bike up from the initial qualifying time of equal 9th fastest to be running at the moment in 4th position and letting the leading 3 Z1B 900 Kawasaki's get away at a pace that he feels, I think, is just a little bit too fast. Danny Oakhill and Dave Robbins came down from Queensland for the Castrol 6R, one of many competitors who've come from all states of Australia. And in 76, Danny Oakhill, who was not well known in New South Wales and had never previously ridden at Amaru Park, was 2nd fastest qualifier, just a 1/10 of a second slower than John Warrior. This year he's already been off the bike in this area in the Dunlop Loop, and he's torn fingernails from his hand. He has some quite severe bandaging on his left hand and a sore wrist, but that's Danny Oakhill riding up at the top at the Dunlop Loop, the area where people inevitably do come down. Somebody has fallen there. The head we can see is in fact the travelling marshal who's attending to the rider. But a bike and rider have come adrift up the top at the Dunlop Loop. The first fall of the race, almost following spot on the tail of the unscheduled pit stop of the Moto Guzzi number 13 from the Victorian entrance, Michael and Martin Hone. Here is the crashed bike, number 38 of Tony Coburn and Steve Trinder, the Yamaha RD400 that crashed up in the Dunlop Loop. Steve Trinder, the number 2 rider on this first bike that's crashed in this year's Castrol 6R. It's one of the very ever-present hazards of such a big field.
Tony Coburn about to be placed in the ambulance. He has his left leg in a plastic bag, which indicates it's a blow-up splint, and he's receiving oxygen also. But he did manage to put his head up and say something to the ambulance men. He's holding the oxygen, so Tony Coburn is not seriously injured. Bike number 38, Tony Coburn, has officially withdrawn from the race. Coburn has a suspected fractured ankle. And now the race is about 52 minutes old, and there's the position, the first 5 bikes all on the same lap and separated by less than 30 seconds.
Yes, number 2, the Z1B of Jim Budd and Neil Chivers, an advantage of about 20 seconds over second place number 5. Graham Crosby, the New Zealander, a very hard charger, sharing the ride with Clive Knight on another of the Z1B 900 Kawasaki's. He's moved up to second place after running the initial laps in 3rd, and now has pulled out a margin of nearly 2 seconds over Roger Hayes, one of the winning pair last year, who had been initially challenging Bud in the opening laps, but who's now fallen back to third and is about 2 seconds behind Crosby, the leader, being Jim Budd that we saw go through there on number 2, just working his way through some of the lap competitors. Budd has maintained his advantage ever since he leapt away with an incredibly good and quick start, trailing his left foot as he wrapped on all the power from the Le Mans start. He really did screw that bike very hard. Funnily, talking to Bud yesterday, he knows that he goes through the loop at the top there in third gear and he comes over the top in fourth, but he doesn't know when he takes off from the pits what gear he gets over the top of the hill in. He said he can leave the pits and tell himself to make a note of it, and he still forgets and doesn't know what gear he's in when he arrives over the top on a standing start lap. But that didn't matter because Bud surged to the lead and has been there ever since for nearly an hour. That is number 13, the Moto Guzzi that's already had an unscheduled pit stop, being run by two brothers from Victoria, Michael and Martin Capone. They had a pit stop very early on in the race, in about the first 10 or 15 minutes. Now they've had an error. They run the bike regularly down there. That's Michael Hone rides it normally in production races down there, but their race is now run. Bike number 16, Danny Oakhill. The Queenslander that last year was second fastest qualifier, this year again was prominent all through qualifying. He was equal third fastest in official qualifying. He already has 3 bandaged fingers from tearing fingernails off earlier in the week up in the Dunlop loop, and now is receiving ambulance attention having come down upon the corner on about the 53rd lap. And up at the Dunlop loop, another rider down, stayed with the machine and rode it right into the padding on the outside of a very firm concrete wall there. Expressing his disgust is Graham Muir. He and Paul Graydon sharing bike number 30, one of the Z1000 Kawasaki's. The rider, as you can see, not badly hurt. So Graham Crosby in second place and being closely hassled there by third place Roger Hayes on number 1 as he comes into the pits, the first of the planned pit stops. Lap 61 for Graham Crosby in second position. Let's see how quickly he can do it.
Graham Crosby in and out in a matter of about 9 seconds. Also 18.3 seconds. 18.3 seconds, the first pit stop for Graham Crosby, the first pit stop in the race. First officially timed pit stop.
Second placed Roger Hayes, bike number 1, one of the winning team last year, into the pits. Be interesting to see if he does what Graham Crosby did and continue on into the second spell without changing riders. But he's off.
This is away in 12.4 seconds. A lightning fast pit stop, remembering that the bike we saw in earlier was 18 seconds. That was Crosby. So that's 6 seconds, the difference in pit stops between the Team Avon number 1 machine ridden by Roger Hayes and Gary Thomas, and Crosby's machine, which was running second. Here comes 2. We've got the clock on him now.
Here comes 2 now. That's Jim Budd, who is the race leader at the moment. Number 2, Jim Budd, and his co-rider is Neil Shivers.
Shivers will do this stint of riding. Here we go again. It's another 12-second job from the Avon team, so they're really lightning fast in the pits, and that was instrumental in them winning last year. They had a very, very professional pit crew, and it saved them a lot of time over 4 or 5 stops. A little bit of shouting and jeering going on down here. Don't quite know what it's all about. Roger Hayes is over there putting in his 2 volts, but officials are here to sort it out now. But if they keep going like that, the Avon teams are certainly they're first and second on the track, and are also very, very fast in the pits too. And it's important to be fast in here, as you can see.
It's 11 a.m. and the race now 1 1/4 hours long. Graham Crosby is leading in bike number 5 from 1 Roger Hayes, 18 Brian Martin, 8, John Warrion, and 3, Kenny Blake.
That's Gary Thomas. You can see the red leather boot on his left foot, the black leather boot on the right. That's because he fell off during the week at this point, and he's down again. He's got a very swollen and sore right ankle. He's had to cut open his racing boot on the right foot, and now with the rain falling and the track at its most slippery, before it's properly cleaned and saturated, Gary Thomas, just onto the bike and therefore not properly in the groove, has dropped bike number 1. That's Ron Bolden, 18 years old, and undoubtedly will ride the middle stint on the bike number 8, the Ducati 900 SS. The Castrol 6-hour race is a hard race to win. Roger Hayes won it last year, and this year, lying second when they made their first pit stop, he got off and put co-rider Thomas on. He thought they might have been in with some sort of a show. They were nicely placed. But now he's seen Thomas, before he had the chance to settle into the groove, and handicapped by an already swollen and sore ankle, fall off the bike at the Dunlop Loop, and he is trying to get it back into the race.
Joe Eastmuir on it, just rammed me around the loop and pushed me over. There was no, he didn't come off, but he just knocked the bike clean away from underneath me, and that sort of riding is just too hairy, you know. It's just not on around this sort of track anyway.
Did he have a clear vision of what was going on?
Obviously, I was travelling around, I was coming to loop, online, there was no chopping on changing, and he just went straight into me. There's no excuse for it. The steward on the corner saw exactly what happened and making a report about it, and I just hope that the club, you know, can do something about it, because guys riding bikes like that, they're going to kill someone sooner or later.
And into the pits comes John Warrior, the Tweed Heads motorcycle dealer, to hand over to Ron Bolden. The youngest A-grade rider in Australia, a mere 18 years old, has competed in the last 2 Castrol 6 hours, but without a great deal of success. A wonderful talent. Had a lot of trouble starting that bike in practices, but no problem there. And Bolden now, one of the youngest in the race, and the youngest A-grade rider in Australia, is out. There's a fall. That is the second rider in one of the Continental bikes. That could well be Alan Decker on number 18. It'll either be bike 18 or 19. That's Barry Lack then, perhaps from Tasmania. Barry Lack it is, from Tasmania, on bike 19. That is the second of the 2 team bikes. The other one in the team, number 18, is the Brian Martin bike that was going so well and very, very briefly did lead the race at one stage.
Barry Lack was 8th fastest qualifier yesterday at 59.9. So 100 laps now completed, and bike number 3 the leader, Kenny Blake and Joe Eastmuir. In second place, number 4 Tony Hatton and Helmut Dana. In third place, bike number 8 John Warrion and Ron Bolden. 18 Brian Martin and Alan Decker 4th, and in 5th place Jim Budd and Neil Chivers. Bike number 8, John Warrion and Ron Bolden, currently in third place. Ron Bolden just on the bike for the second leg. What is he hoping for after taking over from John Warrion on that first leg?
Well, on the second leg, by the time I get aboard, I hope that John's probably established a bit of a lead by then, because the Kawasaki would have to make their first stop at about an hour 12, and we'll be out there a bit longer. So by the time I get on, we should have, well, I might even have half a lap up our sleeve, if not more. So I'll just hop forward, keep consistent, and they'll have to stop again before I come in. So we should gain some more time there.
And what time will you be looking at for that second stop?
Well, it's, you know, sort of keep that a bit quiet till the race day comes, really. But we think, you know, might be around about the 12 mark, somewhere like that.
Ron Bolden has the dual advantage of the superb reactions of youth and a great deal of natural ability, as well as a good, sensible head. It's not a swelled head, and he is prepared to listen to other people. His mother actually works on and prepares his motorcycles for him. He races 250 and 350cc Yamahas in open competition. He's very quick. And as well as that, he has ex-Australian international Jack Ahern. And as I say, Bolden has the sense to listen to these people and to combine his great ability with the advice and the experience that comes from those other people. A great dice going on for the lead at the moment, where co-rider Neil Chivers on bike 2, the bike that led from the start and into the first pit stop, has forced his bike back into the lead, but he's been having a great carve up with 18, Brian Martin, and 3, Joe Eastmuir, who on the BMW was leading for some while, particularly just after the first stops from the Z1B Kawasaki's. But by some very forceful riding indeed. Neil Chivers brought onto that bike to replace the English star and 500cc world champion Barry Sheen. Chivers, when Sheen couldn't come here, Chivers was brought into the team, and some people felt that he might have been the weak link in the team. But he's overtaken Joe Eastmuir, who was the race leader, and there he is, one of a family of motorsport nuts. Their father, Doug Chivers, has been a sidecar passenger. He's raced cars for many years. He was in the Hardy Proto recently, and he's probably about 55 years of age. One of his other brothers was racing at the Speedway last night as a sidecar rider and is also in the race today on another bike. And there's yet a third of them who is a motocross rider. Neil, 22 years old, going very quickly there on bike number 2, doing everything in right in front of Joe Eastmuir on bike number 3, the BMW. Still yet to make a pit stop.
Bike number 9, ridden by the immortal Mike Hailwood, currently in 12th position. How is it that an 8 times world champion, a legend in motorsport, is competing here at Amaru Park?
January, historic race meeting. I was approached by 1 or 2 people and they said, would you like to ride in the 6 hour? And it seemed a long time away at that time, and I said, yeah, why not, just for a laugh, you know. And then sort of things gathered momentum. They found a bike, found a sponsor. And Mr. Owen Delaney put the whole thing together with snacks and the bike from Mr. Malcolm. And then it all came together, and here we are.
No second thoughts?
Well, I'm a bit worried about the weather. You know, if it's too hot, I might find it physically a bit hard. And I'm a bit worried about myself, but I think everything will be all right.
In what way are you worried about yourself?
Well, I'm not physically in tip-top condition, as you can imagine, having been out of any competition for about 4 years. I have been doing a few gymnastics and things like that for the last 3 months, but I don't think it's the sort of training that you can get for doing this type of event.
And what are your feelings on this very tight circuit?
Come race day, when there's 40 other guys all rushing around, it's going to be very, very tight, very hard work. And I think we'll just have to be very, very careful and try and get to the finish, which is a very important thing.
The reason they're riding a 750 Ducati rather than a 900 or 860 that all the other Ducatis are is primarily because that model firstly comes with the right sort of race kit on it, but that right sort of race kit on an 860 would have a right-hand gear change. And Mike Hailwood is sufficiently physically hampered still from the legacy of his Nürburgring car crash in 1974 that he can't handle a right-hand gear change. It must be left-hand, and so the 750 Ducati having a left-hand gear change, that was what they had to run. He can't, the tendons on the top of his foot don't allow him to pivot the foot up enough to handle a left foot gear change, and in fact that's one of the reasons too that Jim Skaysbrook did the first stint, because Hailwood reckons that he'd have got across the track about 30 seconds behind the rest of the field. But he is a legend. He is accorded, I think almost without any question, the title of perhaps the best racing motorcyclist we've ever seen. Natural and fearless, the 2 words used to describe him, but out of competition now for about 4 years. Up at the top, the Dunlop loop again, 2 bikes involved, and we can see that it's an alloy wheel. That's Honda corner, in fact, down from the Dunlop loop. The alloy wheel there on the bike that's just been righted suggests that it's in fact one of the 400 Hondas. That's number 37. That's Greg Burns and Richard Schoolard, the New Zealander, the rider receiving attention just on the edge of the track there. And the second bike involved Andrew Turpey and Graham Keys on one of the Z1B 900 Kawasaki's. 2 bikes tangling, 1 rider, as you can see, receiving attention. Down at Honda corner, the slow corner that's seen the downfall of Danny Oakhill amongst several that have come down there already in the first third of the Castrol 6R. That is Helmut Dahner, the West German, who competed here last year and had such respect for the race. He enjoyed the concept of it so much that he was very keen to come back He's worked his bike up into second position, and the important thing is that they've established that they can go 2 hours without a pit stop. The race is now 1/3 distance gone. It's still going to be only 2 pit stops for the BMWs. They were worrying about having to do a third. It's Tony Hatton getting into the saddle. 125cc Australian title holder in previous years. The West German, the winner of the Isle of Man TT race in 1976. Tony Hatton over to the Boldore 24-hour race with Graham Crosby just recently, where they'd worked their way up as high as 4th position. A very clean and fast rider on the BMW.
Bike number 4, Tony Hatton, the BMW, currently in 3rd spot. 2nd in 1972, 3rd the next year, 6th in 75 and 2nd last year. What's he hoping for the first half of the race?
That'll be the toughest part of the race, as to avoiding preens, keeping out of trouble. We hope to, or I hope to maybe hold myself back a bit right in the middle, pace myself a little bit and keep out of trouble. After 1 hour, I'll sort myself from there. This year, we're running a lower gearing. We're allowed to. The BMW, you can use optional final drive gear ratios. We're running a lower gear this year, so we've find we have to be a little bit careful. The engines are so torquey. It's very, very easy to find yourself going backwards.
He goes through the Dunlop loop then in 3rd gear with the gearing that he has this year, about 115 kilometres an hour as he comes out of there, picks up 4th gear at about that point and holds that all the way down through this Mazda curve, hitting up now towards 160 kilometres an hour, 100 miles an hour, then brakes hard. He comes back down to 3rd gear, about 100 kilometres an hour, 60 miles an hour around Honda Corner. He then picks up 4th on the run down to Rothman's Corner, and then it's back to 2nd gear. The BMW quite remarkable really, because it's always been noted as a touring bike, and yet under race conditions it's time and time again proved itself capable, even in standard form, of pulling out race performance almost as good as that of bikes much more geared towards outright performance. Tony Hatton, a former Australian title holder, lying in 2nd place at the moment on bike number 4. So this is a critical stop, because 2 hours and 20 minutes into the race, suggesting that they're not, might have to make a 5th stop. And it's bike number 2 that led the race in the opening laps, the Jim Budd machine, coming out again after a very quick stop. But this might suggest that at the pace that that particular Z1 Kawasaki has been running the race, that they just might be up for a 5th stop rather